Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name's Jerry. I'm your host. We're going to talk today about whether you should own or rent your chiropractic website. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of the different ways to do a chiropractic website, and hopefully you will be better equipped to make the decision that is best for your chiropractic practice. Now, what spurred this episode on was actually a solicitation that I got from on social medias. There was somebody who is building websites for chiropractors who was running ads. I saw that ad. I'm going to talk about that ad, talk about the problem I have with it, give you guys the pros and cons of the different ways you could do your chiropractic website. And hopefully at the end, you will be in the best position, or at least a better position, to make the decision about what to do with your chiropractic website. So that's the plan for today. Before I get into that, I do want to say, if you would like me to look at your website and SEO and give you some recommendations, let you know if people are finding you, let you know why someone would or wouldn't choose you, then go to Rocket Chiro and request a free review. It used to call that the practice assessment. I just recently changed it to a new patient search review. I don't know if that's a better name or not, but I did change the name because I want people to understand what I'm trying to do, which is I'm looking at your website and SEO from a patient's perspective, letting you know if you're being found and letting you know what do people find when they find you, and would they choose you or would they not choose you. It's a valuable resource, whether you're a client of mine or not. You can request that. I'll send you a custom video. They're about 15 minutes long. So there's quite a bit of content and information that is going to be unique for you and your practice. Obviously, if we can work together, that's great. That's awesome. I help with websites, SEO. And if you just want tips and additional help along with the podcast, then check out my Next Step program. But all of that's available at rocketchiro.com. All right. So the other day I was scrolling on social media. An ad popped up and it basically said, why would you ever rent your website when you can own it? And it said, the way it was presented, and I wish I would have saved it. I actually went back to try to find it so I could find the wording exactly. But the way that it was presented was like, you would never allow someone to own your practice. Like, you're going to rent it because your practice is valuable. And it's talking about all these different valuable things that you would never rent. And so this problem was presented twofold. One is that you should never rent your website. You should always buy it because buying is better and owning is better. And number two, they talked about all the money that you would spend over the next 10 years if you paid for a website, if you rented a website. So I think the number they had was $300 a month, and $300 a month over 10 years, like that really adds up to a lot of money. And there's nothing incorrect about that. The problem with all of this is it's sort of a straw man. You're sort of distracting from the real issues that people have to, the real issues that should help you decide what decision you make and what decision you don't make as a chiropractor for your website. And so we're going to get into that and sort of what the flaws are here. I will say this, the better question you should be asking is my chiropractic website working for me? Your chiropractic website should be a net positive. And I wrote down like a kind of a brief little explanation as to what your chiropractic website should be doing. And what I wrote down was, your chiropractic website, let's see, here we go. I can't read my notes. The purpose of your chiropractic website is to help represent you in a way that lets your ideal patient know that they've found the right place. It's so there are some search elements to it as far as like, how is that website found in SEO? And that's sort of, there's sort of a Venn diagram somewhere where that's a part of your website as well as how it represents you. But what should be happening is if someone goes to your website, they should have a clear understanding of who you are, what value you offer, and the people that are a good fit for your practice should have an internal sigh of relief that tells them, oh, thank God I found the right place. And so that's what you should be doing. And that should ultimately result in a net positive for your practice. Whether you are doing it yourself or whether you're paying someone to do your website, it should be something that is clearly a benefit to your practice. It shouldn't be a neutral, and it definitely shouldn't be a negative. And there are some chiropractic websites that are negatives. They look so bad and they are so disorganized and they're such a mess that you're actually losing patients because of your website. And so we obviously don't want that. The goal should be that the website is a net positive for your practice. So that really should be the question. The question shouldn't be, how much money am I spending and could I do it cheaper? Because we hate when people do this, right? It's like patients come to us and they're like, well, the chiropractor down the road will do it for cheaper. And you know that chiropractor's a hack. It's like, well, they don't do what I do. And just because you could cut your own hair doesn't mean you should. And unless you're like me, like I cut my own hair. But if you have any sort of actual hair and you want to get a good haircut, I would recommend having somebody else do it. I would recommend not doing your own taxes unless you're an accountant. I would recommend there's so many things in our life that you can do yourself because it's cheaper. But that's not the reason that we make these decisions in a vacuum. Because the only time that you would make that decision, and hopefully this isn't you, but if you are just getting started, you don't have 2 nickels to rub together, and that extra $100 or extra $200 that you're going to be spending per month on your website versus doing it yourself, if that's going to be the difference between you putting food on your table that month or having the website, then yeah, do it yourself. Throw up something cheap as possible, and with the plan of doing something better later. But if that's not your situation, if you've been out in practice for a little while and you do have 2 nickels to rub together, and I would prioritize the website in terms of that should be one of the first things you're spending money on, whether you're doing it yourself and spending money, because there's no way that you don't get this. There's no way to have a website where it doesn't cost you money. I don't think. I don't know of a way to have a website without it costing you money. So that's sort of the thought process about the idea of like, oh, well, it's cheaper to do it yourself. It's like, well, get rid of your phone and start doing smoke signals. Like that's cheaper, right? Like that's not the right way to think about it. Also, the other thing that's sort of the straw man argument about should you own it or should you rent it is the idea that if you self-host your own website that you own it. Because that's not the case. Like there's ongoing expenses with websites, and any of you who have your own website, you already know this already. You're going to pay for hosting. You're paying for your URL. You're paying for, if you have a business email, it's likely that you're paying for that. If you have special themes or special apps that you're using on your site, depending on how your site is built, you're probably paying for those things. If your site breaks and you have to pay someone to help you troubleshoot it or fix it, that's going to cost you money. Like there's no situation where you go from, well, I'm paying Rocket Chiro, or I'm paying Inception, or I'm paying Perfect Patient, or I'm paying iMatrix to rent a website, to build a website for me and to manage it for me. I'm paying them. That costs, $200 or $300 a month. And then you look and go, well, I could just do it for free. Like that's not really how it works. You're going to end up spending money to have a website regardless. And the crazy thing about it is that you don't own that stuff. As soon as you stop paying for your URL, you lose it. As soon as you stop paying for your hosting, you lose it. As soon as you stop paying for that premium theme you're using, you lose it. As soon as you stop paying for those extra plugins and those extra add-ons that you like for your website, you lose them. So this whole thing about renting versus owning, and also it's going to cost you a lot, all of that's a straw man. And I'll tell you why it's a straw man. The reason it's a straw man is because this person was selling websites to chiropractors that they build. Like they're going to save you the money that you have to spend every month to have a website service done. And they're going to help you save money by building a $6,000 website for you. And I don't have a problem with someone building a $6,000 website for you. I do have a problem with using scare tactics to get chiropractors to make decisions that aren't necessarily in their best interest. If that's the direction you want to go, great. But one of my purposes for this podcast with people that listen to this is I want you to make decisions eyes wide open. I don't want you to make decisions with ignorance and with blind spots. And I understand that it's impossible to know the future and it's impossible to know every possible thing. Sometimes you just have to try it. Sometimes you have to push the bird out of the nest to see if it flies. Like I understand all of that. But when you're getting started as a chiropractor, and even as you're in practice as a chiropractor, there's so many things you don't know, because from a website and a SEO and a marketing standpoint, there's so many things you don't know. And there's people out there that prey on that lack of knowledge. And instead of giving you a nuanced answer or a nuanced perspective like I do on this podcast, because I'll be happy to sell you a website service. I'll be happy to sell you a website, but I also tell you, you don't have to do that. You could do your own WordPress site. You could do your own Wix site. You could do your own Squarespace site. There's lots of ways to do your own chiropractic website. And I would be a hypocrite if I told you that you had to pay for a service or you had to pay someone to do your website for you. Because when I was in practice, I paid for my first site. I had it built for me, and then somebody else was kind of helping me with it. But then after that, after the first year or so, I did everything myself. And the reason I know how to do the stuff I do now is because I really enjoy it. I was committed to it, and I decided to do it myself. So for me to tell you, like, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, it's impossible, and you're a chiropractor, you're never going to do as good a job as I can, that would be a lie, and that would be hypocritical. The right answer is, if you're going to do it yourself, and that's the long-term plan, is that I would just encourage you to be committed to having a really good quality website and what all of that means, and be committed to working on it and be committed to tinkering with it. Like, you kind of have to be sick. Like, you kind of have to be sick like me and enjoy working on websites if you're going to make that work. And you sort of kind of have to have an eye for design as well. Otherwise it looks really amateur and bad, which that's sort of a different thing than functionality, but they do go together in terms of the human experience. Because what your website should be doing is, when someone comes to it, like it said, I found the right place, and it should communicate value, and it should make the process of going from non-patient to patient a very simple and straightforward thing. And so there's design elements to it, and there's also some functionality elements to it in terms of like back-end stuff, like foundational SEO and stuff like that. So what are your options? Let's kind of go through the options. I'm going to brief over some pros and cons. I don't want to make this podcast excessively long, but I do want to go through some pros and cons. There's 3 basic ways to do a chiropractic website. You can do it completely yourself, and there's different ways of doing that. There's different platforms, but you can do it completely yourself. You're paying for hosting, you're paying for the website, you're paying for the domain, you're paying for all of that. There's a hybrid model, which is basically you pay someone to build something for you, and then you manage it and take it over, and you pay for it all after that. So there's sort of an upfront cost that's going to be quite a bit more in most cases. And this is what this guy was selling. He was selling it upfront, like, hey, we'll build the website for you, but you own it. We'll pass it over to you. And then there's the website service. This is what I do for most of my clients. I do both the build and the service for my clients, but I probably do 1 or 2 builds a year. Like, I don't do a lot of them. The service is something that I have quite a few like ongoing clients. And that's something I do more because most chiropractors, at least the ones that I work with, like they don't want to work with their own website. They want it to work. They want help. They want someone that's there to kind of be a marketing person and a website help for them. So they kind of want what I do as opposed to doing it themselves. So what are the pros and cons? The pro of doing it yourself, like doing it completely yourself, is that is the cheapest way to have a chiropractic website, even though it is going to cost you money. And you have full control. So those are sort of the big things. If you're a control freak, you want to have control, do it yourself. The cons of it is that it's time consuming. There is a amount of knowledge that's required. There's a certain level of design skill that's also required to make it look nice. If it breaks, you have to fix it. It's just that. It's like, it's your responsibility. It's your baby. So if you want to do it yourself, you got to have to do it yourself. The second option is DIY with help. So you do it yourself with help. And this is what this guy was selling that was running the ads. They're going to build a website for you, and then you're going to manage it after that. I would imagine if you needed help or something broke, you could reach out to them afterwards. The pros and cons of that: the pros are it saves you a ton of time. It should be set up right, and it should look well. Now, I say should be set up right because the thing you do have to be concerned about when you pay someone to do a build for you is that some people are really good at design and some people are really good at some of the functionality of the website, like the back end stuff. And there are those people that are really good at either one of those things, but they're not good at both. And so what you could have is you could spend $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 for a site that looks really nice, but it's functionally garbage. I've seen these. I've seen chiropractors that have gone from my service to something else, kind of switch over to something like that, where it's like, wow, that looks really good, but it's functionally not set up correctly, which is going to hurt your search engine optimization and everything else. There's also, I've seen it with, there's a guy that I worked with years ago that owns a gym here in my local area. And I set up his website, did his SEO, like we were killing it. And somebody talked him into this other website design layout thing that they wanted to do. And I would imagine, knowing him, he probably bartered for it because he's cheap. And he had switched over. Now, I'll tell you what, the site looks great, but they absolutely napalmed all of the back end SEO stuff that I did for that other website. And his website SEO just absolutely tanked, because I did some very in-depth SEO stuff to his site that I built for him, and they gutted all of it. And I'm not saying that people aren't able to do the design and the back end stuff. I'm just warning you, because there are people that are good at one thing and not the other, and there are people that can do both. If people are doing both and they're doing it well, it's not going to be cheap. I mean, if you have somebody build a website for you and they're doing it well, $3,000 is probably the least you could get it done. 7 or 8 wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, sometimes more, depending on what you want done. So it could be expensive initially. And that sort of brings us to the cons. Like, the downside of it is it tends to be a huge chunk of change initially. And then the other part of it is you're sort of stuck with it again. If you don't have the technical knowledge and know-how to set it up, you probably don't have the technical knowledge and know-how to fix it. And so you end up spending thousands of dollars, still paying for your hosting, still paying for all this stuff on an ongoing basis to save yourself $100 a month or $150 a month or something like that from a service. And what ends up actually happening is that you have to have that site for like 5 years before you even break even on that whole I'm trying to save money thing, when you have somebody do this thing that this guy was doing. So just be aware of that. It's not a bad thing. Like, I had this done. The very first website I had was like this. Like, somebody built it for me. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know if I needed a website at the time. It was back in the dark ages when nobody had any fun. And so, I've done this before. So the only thing I haven't done, and to be honest with you, 100% honest with you, the only thing I haven't ever done is I haven't ever paid for a website service. And the reason is I don't want to lose control. And I'm not saying that as a control freak. I like working on websites. So I don't want someone managing my website to the point that I can't do something I can't control. So the last option is going to be the website service. This is like my Rocket Chiro, what I do mostly with my clients, Inception, Perfect Patient, whatever, like iMatrix, all of that. Pros and cons are going to be that it's cheaper initially, meaning it's cheaper than, it's not cheaper than doing it all yourself, but it's way cheaper than having somebody build something for you, because you're only going to spend a few $100s to kind of get started and kind of get going. It should look professional. It should be set up properly. And if something goes wrong, you should have somebody there to help you. So that should be the benefits of it. It should be optimized. You also get to benefit from their experience. You get to benefit from the fact that they're working with multiple, hopefully you're working with, if you're doing a service, you should be doing a service with somebody that works with chiropractors, because they're seeing what's happening on their other chiropractic sites, and they use that information to help your site. So there's this benefit there that doesn't exist when you're doing it completely by yourself, because these people, me and other people, are working with different chiropractic websites and kind of seeing different things. So you're getting the benefit of experience. You're getting the benefit of sort of a network that doesn't exist within your practice when you're doing it yourself. Some of the cons, the biggest con is that you're essentially, it's more expensive each month. If you were just self-hosting or doing something like that, you're probably looking at like $30 to $50 a month. If you are paying for a website service like mine or somebody else's, it's probably $200, $300, maybe more, depending on what's being done. If you have some SEO stuff and other stuff included, it could be $500 or $600 a month. So it can be expensive per month. But once again, I don't think that's the discussion. I think the discussion should be, is it a net positive? Not is it more expensive than not doing it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You also lose control, which is my biggest objection with a service. If I was in practice, the reason I wouldn't do it and have somebody else do it is because I like to tinker. So if you like to tinker, I wouldn't recommend doing a service. If you have no intention of tinkering, you don't want to tinker, a service is a good option. And I think it's probably the best option for most chiropractors, because you shouldn't be fiddling with your website. Have somebody else do it. Now, there are some assumptions. We'll kind of just talk about this. One, just be aware of people that use scare tactics. Like, if you get a hold of me and I tell you like, hey, here's your options, here's some things, like if someone's not willing to kind of push you away a little bit because you're not your situation isn't necessarily good for them. It's always like a yes, 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 I can help. This is perfect, whatever. And you don't get any sort of other nuanced view on it. And especially when they're using scare tactics, just be aware. Like, red flags should be going up. You should kind of be like, hey, maybe I should ask somebody else. Like, maybe I should see like what my options are. And people are going to disagree. Like, even within this space, like, people disagree. Like, I have a client the other day that had somebody helping him with some Google Maps stuff, and he sent me some stuff that the person told him, and I 1,000% disagree with the approach. I actually think it's going to hurt my client, not help them. And so now, could I be wrong? Sure, maybe. I could also be right. So, I think if you're in a situation where you're dealing with someone that's using scare tactics and you're not ever getting any sort of opposing view, I think that's not a great place to make a decision, especially when you're ignorant. Like, you don't really know what you don't know. Number 2 is like, I don't think that just because you're paying someone to do a website for you, building it, or a website service, that doesn't mean that it's doing exactly what you want it to do. So just make sure that it's representing you well. Make sure that it's, if you're paying for a website service and you're never, ever getting any patients from the internet, they're all coming from referral, and it's just sort of this thing that's like dead online. Maybe get a different company, because there are people that work with chiropractors that make some pretty garbage websites. They tend to be really cluttered. They tend to be messy. I don't think they convert well. I mean, I don't know the stats on them because obviously I'm not monitoring an iMatrix site or whatever, but they tend to be really cluttered and messy, some of them. And so just be aware of that. Just because you're paying someone to do it, that doesn't mean that's the best choice. Maybe consider a different option if you're not thrilled with how your website's going. And lastly, just don't make decisions based on purely on money. I mean, just don't do that. I mean, obviously you need to be fiscally responsible. Like, don't waste money. Like, I'm such a cheap person. Like, I hate spending money, so I would be hypocritical once again if I told you don't be aware of money. But there's a bunch of things like software, even to do this podcast. Like, I have to pay for software. Like, I have to pay for things to get this done. And some of those things are ongoing. Like, I have to pay for hosting and some other stuff. Like, I pay for hosting and different things on my website to have my website. So it's you can't just not do stuff because it costs you money. So just spend money wisely. Don't just not spend money. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to spend it wisely. A good return on investment. Last thing I'll say is this, and this is just sort of a pro tip and a personal thing to save yourself some trouble. Regardless of whether you have someone build a website for you, you're doing it yourself, or you're paying for website service, there's a couple things I think you should always maintain your control. Your URL, so the www.yourpracticename.com. Make sure that you are paying for that. It should be on your GoDaddy account. It should be something you set up. It should be something that you pay for. So it's going to be $15, $20 a year. Hang on to that. And the reason is because if you decide to go in a different direction with hosting or website service or anything like that, it's easily changed when you have your own URL. If somebody else sets it up for you or somebody else controls it, you're just opening yourself up for a giant headache. I have seen this multiple times just recently with people getting hacked, or people that set it up and then the business doesn't business anymore. Like the business, like you can't get access to it. So you can't even renew it. And it's like, I've seen multiple problems recently because of that. So just be aware that just you maintain your URL. The other thing is your email. I do recommend that you maintain your own email as well. If you're self-hosting, you probably can set up your email through your hosting, which is sort of a different discussion. But most chiropractors have their email set up through like Google Workspace or something similar. If that's being done through your website service or website provider or whatever, I would recommend that you set it up, you maintain it, you pay for that $6 or $7 a month or whatever it is that you're paying. Do that. And the reason I recommend both of these things is for the same reason, is because if you ever decide to change later, if you ever decide to go in a different direction with your website, and you don't want your email service and you don't want your URL tethered to someone else or some other company. That, to me, if we're going to talk about own it or rent it, that's the one thing that I would say, maintain those things under your control, and you have a tremendous amount of flexibility, and that's the most safe place to be, regardless of what you decide to do for your website. So that's it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. If you know a chiropractor who doesn't listen to the podcast, and there are a lot of them out there because I am not a big deal, just share the podcast with them. Tell them, say something nice about it. Share it with them. Share it on social. I'd really appreciate that. If you want to leave a review for the podcast, you could do that in Apple Podcasts, which is cool. It's kind of a pain in the butt to find and get to, but if you do it, I will be forever grateful. I'm done. I'm out of here. If you want help with your website, go to Rocket Chiro and request help. I'll talk to you guys on the next episode. See ya.